things going here in just a minute. It's good that you can join us. There's a handful that are with us as we have been going along, as we get uh, safer and safer to our, I guess, freedom, you might say, so that we can move about the building freely. Let me run these things forward real quick, if you don't mind. And if you would, turn your Bibles to the book of Ecclesiastes. I told you we were going to finally get here, and we're going to talk about going home tonight. I just want you to know that the trip is, it's not pretty. But you know that already because we've been observing life under the sun. And, life under the sun isn't all pretty either, is it? So it's not a new thing to us. It's just something that maybe we, as we are young, put out of our mind. When we're in our younger years, we don't think about getting old. And then the writer of the book of Ecclesiastes says, think about it. Think about it while you're young. Like I said, remember your Creator, and also to not only remember your Creator, but we're going to get to the book, and he's going to tell you to enjoy your life. You take that youngness, that youth, and you put it to use. It's a great admonition for a young person who, has, if you've lived through the book, the reading of Ecclesiastes so far, it was tough until we got to last week and we finally got a little bit of optimism, about observing oppression and all that. But, let me catch up here. So, welcome to the Little Rock Church of Christ. Those of you that are tuning in via Facebook and YouTube, you're on Proverbs Live. If you are on YouTube channel, Proverbs Live, and you'll see that as we pop up. And, of course, what is true, we have the YouTube channel for the TV program, the things that are presented there. And Brother Patton and I, if you have any questions or desire a particular topic to be addressed there, that's at 8 o'clock on Sunday mornings on KARZ. So see you next Sunday at 10:30. But as we are going to tonight, open the book of Ecclesiastes, go to chapter 12. We're going to get into a little bit of 11 at the very end. Let's just kind of walk through, quickly. I know this is we do a 30-minute class, and I pack a lot into 30 minutes. I do that on a purpose because this is one of those things I hope you go back and just read because it's amazing when you come to some of these incredible conclusions. So we have been breathing nonsense, vanity, vexation of the spirit, striving after the wind. The best definition I could come up with in the reading, in the study of the word, is just breathing nonsense. Just when you're in the middle of things that go on in life under the sun, it's just meaningless. It's a vanity. It's striving after the wind. And then we have these studies. Life is useless. Everything becomes old. Everything becomes beautiful. Everything has oppression and envy, and then a value of friendship, which stands to reason. You got relationships that are bad, relationships that have bad for a reason, a cause, and then you have the value of friendship. Then you have God and mammon and the warfare that goes on then. We have man and mortality. Now we're going to talk about that, and then capturing the moment in chapter 11. So, that much being said, Ecclesiastes 12, verse 7, then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God who gave it. Vanity of vanity, says the preacher, all is vanity. Once again, we're faced with a peculiar dilemma. Have we introduced God arbitrarily, or have we established a precedence for the existence of God in the study of the book of Ecclesiastes? Remember, we were going to start here for someone who did not believe in God because the book is written by inspiration and reveals life under the sun as if without God. And the end result of that is just heaven. You live, you die, you're gone. But he said in chapter 3 that there was more than that. And we've observed, and I'm going to get to that too. So the first question, what advantage does a man have in all the work that he does under the sun? So what's the benefit, young people, of going to work? What's the benefit of trying to press through all of this? Well, it's because you don't know what you're going to find after many days. Ecclesiastes 11, verse 3. Cast your bread upon the water. So, we did find an answer to that question about, life under the sun and is there any profit to the labor? Well, yeah, it's going to come back to you in some way. We're going to see how that does, how that occurs tonight, because see, one thing we can know, that whatever comes back to me that's bringing me joy isn't more hevel. It's got to be something that brings me above hevel. It has to bring me above breathing nonsense. It brings me understanding. It also brings me into a picture of understanding. It is. That hand, as young as that hand can be, does not matter. That one day, if time continues, that hand will become this hand in its texture, in its feel, and in its appearance. It doesn't matter how beautiful the nails get done, how refined. And the challenge was in this beginning, how do you have the outward man perishing? Because that's what's bringing all this hevel. That's what's bringing all this nonsense, isn't it? Work out. I spent all those years doing that exercise only to be told that I maybe used it too much and I need a new shoulder. It didn't work. It worked. I used it. I was a consumer. But you can't keep it. We've established that in previous lessons. Well, my body, what is it? Oh, it's the same thing. It's just like the meal that we've had. It's going away. It's not here anymore. Carried out its functions, nutrition, the spirit. That's the thing that now we have to say, how? Where? In fact, if I read the book of Ecclesiastes and I took the outlook, the worldview of an atheist, of life without God and without anything like that, then we would say, like he did at one point in his book, just as well off to be stillborn, not to have never lived, than to just suffer oppression. So live your life. So I'm going to ask you this question then. When does your life begin? Maybe you were mama's womb, growth, development in the womb. When do you start? So Miss Bernice or young Zach. So which one of us? Who's on this one right here? Who's getting ready to fly? And who is struggling to get the wings out? See, that's, in life. Isn't that really what we're trying to do? Is we're trying to get the strength to get out of the struggle. Out of the struggle. So when does it begin? Oh, I love preaching to this because I don't give you all the answers. He's already said, I can tell you everything there is to know, or I can try to know everything there is to know, and I still can't know it all. So I'm going to say, okay, I don't know. Let's think about it. Let's study some more. A no-nonsense approach to breathing nonsense. You hold one of those glass balls up, and it turns your world upside down. And life's final perspective from how we begin life, and I am experiencing a little of this. I'm old enough now to begin to experience life's final perspective and understanding how I desire to get and to gain and to have more and more and more, and that was just the way it was supposed to be. Faster, newer, bigger, better, and all of a sudden, less is more, And, so you begin to change life perspective. Well, what happens in the reading of the book of Ecclesiastes, it's real hard for us young people to get to understand, is our world has been taught upside down. I didn't say it has not been turned upside down. The world's the world. What the book of Ecclesiastes did is to teach your world upside down. If you like silver, you love silver, and you invest in silver, and you get more silver, and 20 years from now, your investment has grown, and you've got more silver, guess what you're going to want? Collect something else. You know what I'm saying? What? So what? And this life as we know it. So we got to get, I love being optimistic. Y'all know that about my teaching and my preaching, because I truly believe that the Lord came for us to enjoy our lives. Remember what we began, our questions. Does God intend for you to be happy? Does God intend for you to enjoy your life? Rejoice, O young man, in your youth. Start out there, 11 verse 9. Let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes. Now, he's saying that you take it all in. But then he says, don't run with abandon. We've already studied that. And of course, he's been through the book of Proverbs, I think, already, and studied about things that mess up. But he also says, you dig a pit, you can fall in it. You break through a wall, and, you can get bit by a serpent. So he's not saying live with abandon. He is saying follow it, but know all of this, that God will bring you into judgment. And then he says about that. And I say, I'm going to give you some insight about this reading that I think has helped me understand it better. But know for all these, God will bring you into judgment, therefore remove sorrow from your heart. Having the knowledge that God's going to bring those things into judgment keeps me away from the activities that would hurt me, because I realize that many of the things that I would otherwise pursue, he just told me, for childhood and youth are vanity. Now, he's pointing us to the fact that we've got the energy to roll, and he's saying, go. Live your life. And in fact, we've got more than just this one time of saying that. We're going to see it 3 times in the past. But life as we know it, what we're doing now is in chapter 12 is about to come to this place. Remove sorrow from your heart, put away evil from your flesh. Childhood and youth are vanity. That means they're going to end. They're temporary. So, life as we know it ends. What happens, we gained in this study, as we studied life under the sun, not God, not going above, not reading the Bible, but looking at life, we gained an eternal perspective because we encountered death. And we have within us a statement that is said, but I'll ask you this as an atheist, though. We have a spirit within us. Mortimer Adler, an apologist and a debater for the existence of God, referred to that as intellect. In other words, man has intellect, the ability to even conceptualize of eternal perspective. Which means, from his argument, which means logically that we would be created in the image of God, an eternal God. So observing life under the sun and the cessation of life, but the spirit that can observe that cessation of life and even ask the question, opens the door. And chapter 7 tells us it's even better to go to the house of mourning to see that, to witness that, than the house of feasting, that temporary filling of the body, because the end of all of us is that place of death. Eternity in our hearts, chapter 3. By a sad countenance, that eternity in our hearts is made better. Now, for those of you that have received comfort from God, in those times of mourning. You know what I'm saying? And now Solomon is pointing to all those negative things that occur and saying inside something else is happening. Now outside you're sad. Outside it's not going well. But inside you're learning something. That heart again. Remember, it's already been through eternity. There's your young person coming to the age of accountability. Eternity in the heart, they comprehend that. That's accountability. They come to that. And then you get to chapter 7 and encounter a sad countenance, a heart is made better, and then they turn to life. When I hold a funeral, if I'm preaching a funeral for grandma, I don't want to turn to the grandchildren and say, okay, grandmother's dead, so your life is over. And grandmother would have, say, you get up from here and go live your life. And this is Solomon speaking in this grand understanding, but he's hammering down before the read that for all of these things you'll be brought into judgment. So this brief introduction or the close of chapter 11, actually chapter 11, I think you should have chapter 11, 9 beginning through the end of the book as far as the division of chapters that you divide. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth before the difficult days come. I'm going to stop right there before we get the difficult days started. So we're going to run through them really fast in this lesson because I don't want to talk about the slowness of how they progress. So I think that what we can do now, though, is at the end of this brief series is say, go to work. Enjoy your work, your labor, and enjoy the life. So that means, what time does sunrise? 6. Time the sun go down. At that time. There's a lot of principles in these itty bitty statements that have so much to do with just how to have life under the sun. So simple, so profound. No retirement plan for life. You live until you die. Ecclesiastes 8:15. You want to know it. You can work on it. You can study it. You can come up here and study with me. We can have the grandest discussions. I've got so many good friends, and we have spent years having wonderful theological discussions. We have books unending. In fact, I can prove that by the admission, in verse 12 of chapter 12 of the making of many books, there is no end. I have the never-ending book supply upstairs. Thank you, Brother Don. We do. I'll prove it. You can never read them all. But let's start. Just find the one you need. Though we attempt to know it, we cannot. Don't try to figure it all out before you live it. You begin to embrace it and you walk it. And enjoy it. Live joyfully with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life. Enjoy Hevel. He just said it. Did he just tell me that? After telling me all of this nonsense that I've been breathing, and that it doesn't bring me any happiness, he says, live joyfully with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life, which he has given you under the sun all the days of your vanity, which is your portion under the sun, and in the labor which you perform under the sun, whatever your hand finds to do, you put your hands to all your might. There ain't no work or device or knowledge in the grave. Where you're going. He said, he is putting it plain. You better get it going while you can. Live it. So changing your world. So this is how we read old age. Here is what we're trying to pull through. So what I'm trying to say is If you will take this dry ground, as many men have done in the dry lands of the United States of America and throughout the world, if you'll just take this parched land, if you will do your work and build your house and water your lawn and plant your shrubs and furnish it to your standards and the standards of the world, you can change your world and you can grow the grass and the trees and you can plant and you can tend. Oh, that's what God intended you to do in the beginning. He will put us in a position that we would do things that would bring us joy in the days of our labor of the vanity which we do in our life under the sun. And he says that we can live and you can rejoice and enjoy them all. But youth and childhood, it brings more hevel. So remove sorrow from your heart, put away evil from your flesh, a principle that we begin to understand here in chapter 12. Remember the Creator in the days of your youth before the difficult days draw near, and you say, I have no pleasure in them. Okay? We're coming to a place where we are going to say, God will bring us into judgment, verse 9, and we are remembering our Creator before difficult days come. Now, the judgment in life under the sun, there's a couple of ways. Now, we know when we lived life in its moment, we had the absolute opportunity to engage in life and enjoy living. In chapter 5, 18, 9 and 10, chapter 11, 9 and 10, rejoice, O man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you. So here we have 3 times the emphasis on you being told to live your life, to remember your Creator, and then inserted into the middle of that thing, enjoy your life, pursue your heart's desire, but remember that God will bring you into judgment. And I say this, it has suddenly, at the end of this book, just opened the door and said you have a conscience. And that's, as I was talking before in the study, when I have discussions with the atheists. You know, when we come to this, I mean, you can't allow God in if you're an atheist and they don't believe in God, so you just read through and you work through life under the sun. And then we come to this place, though, where I can't allow, but we have judgment. Is that real? Well, yeah. We're conscious of conscience. He would agree that in the things that we've read previously in Ecclesiastes, that, the oppression of the innocent and all those things are wrong. Well, who made them wrong? And what judgment can be made on that? Well, it's because we have just become conscious of our conscience. And the Cambridge refers to that text there in this reading of the judgment, that the judgment may be, their debater does not define. It may be a physical suffering, the disease, the poverty, the shame, and the portion of the drunkard. The same way that the book of Ecclesiastes sets forth principles that when you live your life abandoning God's precepts and principles, you expose yourself to the calamities of life that are brought on by ignorant behavior. So, in this sudden revelation at the end of this book, and with 7 or 8 minutes left to finish, we're going to be the change. You're going to change. Because we've had our world turned upside down, because everything I've pursued in my life, as the first few chapters did, I knew it was going to bring me happiness. But it did. Well, now I'm faced with this other thing. And, when we read in chapter 11 that when a tree falls, in verse 3, there it'll lie. So, life under the sun, and I'm supposed to be a change, things that are unchangeable, because, I have to be conscious of these things that have been brought before my attention, that's been laid before me. And when he says, put these things away, remember your Creator before the difficult, and you say, I have no pleasure in them, we think of Ephesians 3:20. He says we can't figure it all out. But yet he's telling us that we can live our lives in our youth, walk in the ways of our heart, sight of our eyes, but know that these things will be brought into judgment, so we can do that wisely. We can do that and observe, well, like he says in chapter 12 of verse 10, the preacher sought out to find acceptable words. What words are written was upright, the words of truth. The words of wise are like goads, and they are words of the scholar, like well-driven nails by one shepherd. He's going to give us the answer to get through all this hevel that we can never understand. And with what disposition do we approach it? I like to jump to the New Testament and just give you a little insight. To him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think. When did that come into play? How does that come into play? Life's final experience. Life's final experience. Boy, I've got to hurry up. All right. This doesn't take long, though. My brother, I took part with Brother Sonny's funeral this year. And when we were studying this at Fairview, he and I had many discussions. We were talking about, he was ready for me to get to chapter 12, and I told him I'm getting there, and we've gotten there in more ways than one in our study. Oh, I can say I don't have any pleasure in it. How are you doing today? I have no pleasure in it. Come on, guys, let's start it today. I mean, is it okay? Is it okay when you ask me, this is what it's going to be like? And you know what? He's saying this is how you're going to feel. The sun and the light and the moon and the stars are not darkened, and the sun and the clouds do not return after the day. Verse 3, in the day when the keepers of the house trembled, the legs and back, the strong men bowed down, the grinders ceased because they are few. The teeth. Those who look out the windows grow dim. Yeah, I can see. I don't know what happened. To those who look through those windows, they grow dim. To the doors are shut in the streets, and the sound of the grinding is low. There's the ears. And you can't hear that, but one rises up at the sound of a bird. So you get annoying noises that you can't sleep by. And then all the daughters of the music are brought low. You can't hear and enjoy the good music. They're afraid of heights, and you don't want to ride the roller coaster anymore. And the terror is in the way. Now I'm afraid. That never was there. Where'd that come from? The almond tree blossoms, and the grasshopper is a bird, and I can't catch him. The desire falls, the man goes to death. Well, no, wait a minute. I missed a part. I read it wrong. I was so caught up in all that bad stuff that was happening to my body that I was just talking about that I was just going to die. But he said, I'm going home. And y'all are the mourners going to go about the streets. Now, how's that for you nonsense? I'm crying because my body is getting old and it's going to go away. And I'm leaving. And you're going to mourn, I hope. But I'm going. Now think about what just happened in life and death. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, beginning in verse 16. We're going to end here. Y'all thought, man, he's really gotten himself deep into this thing to get out of here. Actually, you're going to be amazed. At least I was. To read the book of Ecclesiastes, to have that picture, and then to take this seed of what the apostles were saying on how they saw Not life under the sun, but the invisible. Isn't that it? Isn't that it? Thanks for the light. Isn't that it? That's the only way that you're going to, that's it. Because all that you're going to see is heaven. I'm sorry. And you ride with any individual long enough in their life, one of y'all will say goodbye to the other, unless you're fortunate enough to go together. All of those life factors, how can this be? We do not lose heart. Though our outward man is perishing, our inward man is being renewed day by day. For our light affliction is our light affliction, which is for a moment, is working for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. While we do not look at the things that are seen, that's that life under the sun. We're looking at the things that are not seen. That's the eternity that's in our heart. For the things that are seen, well, he says they're temporary. Solomon told me they're heaven. And things that are not seen, that eternity in my heart, eternal. So what do we got to know? What do we need to know? Life as we know it. We know that this house, this house, this earthly house, this tent is destroyed after we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. Oh, and breathing heaven, I like to think of it in this way. We groan earnestly desiring to be clothed with the habitation which is from heaven. If indeed we have been clothed, we shall not be found naked, for we who are in this tent groan, being burdened, not because we want to be unclothed, but clothed further. What do you mean? I want to take all of this temporal away, all the heaven away, because further clothed, that this mortality may be swallowed up by life. Ooh, that is a big lesson. And that reading takes us out. So what's next? The book of Ecclesiastes, life under the sun. Repeat. The road home, faith, and hope and love. Enjoy your work, enjoy the good, live joyfully, rejoice, remove sorrow. That excellent way, it wasn't some miraculous step. It was through faith, hope, and love. Let's pray. The conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep His commandments. Loving Father, we're so thankful for the blessing of this life. We're so thankful for this day, for the privilege that we can call upon you as our God, that you indeed will hear our prayer. You answer our prayer. And that you will provide for us the things necessary to sustain us in this life, to prepare us for the life to come. We're thankful for the revelation and the insight that is provided for us in this great book. And we're thankful, Father, that we have that eternity in our heart, that we can truly see that in your time that things are beautiful. And we are thankful, Father, that as we come to the close of that road, and all of those things that we list that are no longer in this temporal frame, that our eternal man, that inward person, help us to be renewed. Help us to see every day closer that eternal reward with you in heaven. Bless us as we seek to serve you.